Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something pretty incredible. We're looking at the surprisingly rigorous 19-step bureaucratic roadmap required to safely set up a high-tech nuclear medicine facility in India. It's a massive cradle-to-grave journey that takes these facilities from a single digital form all the way to their final, permanent closure. Let's get into it.
So think about the stakes here for a second. How exactly do you safely build a facility that handles radioactive materials? Like, how do we guarantee the absolute safety of radiation workers, the patients, and just the general public when you're dealing with potentially hazardous elements literally every single day? Well, as you'll see, it takes a highly controlled, incredibly detailed, step-by-step regulatory process.
To make sense of all this, we're breaking the 19 steps down into a 5-part life cycle. First, an introduction to ELORA. Second, planning and staffing. Third, equipping your nuclear facility. Fourth, commissioning and clinical use. And finally, compliance and decommissioning.
All right, part 1, Introduction to ELORA.
Before a single physical brick is even laid, you've got to clear your first digital hurdle. This entire ecosystem revolves around ELORA. That stands for E-Licensing of Radiation Applications. It's a web-based e-governance system run by India's Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, or AERB. And the goal is straightforward but totally vital: achieving a paperless, fully automated licensing system for every single radiation facility in the country. It's honestly a funny contrast. You're gearing up to handle literal sci-fi level radioactive isotopes, but you have to manage the whole thing through a pretty standard, mundane government portal. You'll notice the operational tabs right there on the homepage, everything from diagnostic radiology to radiotherapy, and of course, nuclear medicine.
The actual journey kicks off with steps 1 and 2 right here on this screen. You read the guidelines and then you click Register Institute. This creates your employer account and officially locks your institution into the AERB's tracking matrix.
Moving on to part 2, Planning and Staffing.
Now that your digital footprint is set, it's time to deal with the physical reality. Steps 3 through 6 are strictly linear. You absolutely cannot start construction without formal layout approval from the AERB, no exceptions. Once that layout is approved and built, you've got to hire specific, registered radiation professional staff. Then, you secure their monitoring badges, and finally, you formally nominate your radiological safety officer in the ELORA system. Now, let's look closer at step 5, because protecting the professionals you just hired is non-negotiable. They need personnel monitoring badges, those TLD badges. You can't just buy these off the shelf. Depending on where you are, southern, western, central regions, or if you're a defense institution, you have to procure these strictly from very specific AERB-accredited regional laboratories.
Okay, part 3, Equipping your nuclear facility.
For steps 7 and 8, it's time for procurement, which means acquiring some highly specialized heavy-duty gear. We're talking precise measuring instruments like dose and isotope calibrators, plus essential safety tools like survey meters and gamma zone monitors. And you need physical handling accessories too. You literally have to buy lead bricks, L-benches, shielded syringe carriers, and specialized tongs just to handle the radioactive sources safely. The absolute key for steps 9 and 10 is timing and permission. Listen, you can't just go out and buy a multi-million-dollar PET CT scanner. You have to secure explicit permission via ELORA prior to procuring your major equipment or any QA sources. And the clock starts ticking the second that equipment arrives at your door. You have exactly 15 days to log its formal receipt back into the ELORA system. Which brings us to part 4, Commissioning and Clinical Use. This is the big milestone. The facility is preparing for live operations with actual patients. Steps 11, 12, and 13 are all about proving your facility is functionally safe. First, you run stringent quality assurance tests and a full radiological survey, and you upload those reports. Then, you have to pass a rigorous physical pre-commissioning inspection and comply with whatever modifications the inspectors demand. Only after all of that are you finally granted an official license for operation.
But hold on, having that license doesn't mean you can just instantly order active medical isotopes. Under step 14, you have to explicitly declare your exact installation type in ELORA, whether it's a PET CT, SPECT, or beta therapy unit based on its intended use. Then, step 15 requires you to place your clinical source requirement through the portal to a specific supplier. That guarantees you stay perfectly within your AERB authorized activity limits.
Let's head into part 5, Compliance and Decommissioning. Getting the license was honestly just the beginning.
For steps 16 and 17, the bureaucratic oversight is absolutely relentless. You are mandated to submit an annual safety status report for your facility, and the deadline is uncompromising, January 31st of the following year. Miss it and you are immediately flagged for noncompliance, plus you have to conduct periodic quality assurance on all your equipment following NEMA protocols, constantly uploading those results when you renew your license.
Step 18 is the grave part of our cradle-to-grave journey. We're talking about radioactive waste. Any disused or decayed sealed radioactive source cannot simply be thrown in the trash. It has to be legally returned to its original manufacturer or supplier after you get permission through ELORA. Unsealed radioactive waste, on the other hand, has to be meticulously managed according to the 1987 Safe Disposal of Radioactive Wastes rules.
And finally, the 19th step. A nuclear medicine facility can't just lock its doors and shut down when it's done. It has to be methodically decommissioned. This means getting prior consent from the AERB, and the entire teardown process has to happen under the strict, watchful eye of your radiological safety officer. Only then can you submit your final intimation on decommissioning through the ELORA portal.
So I'll leave you with this. What does it truly take to carry the immense cradle-to-grave responsibility of nuclear healthcare? It's a lot, right? While this 19-step bureaucratic process might seem exhausting, it forms the vital, invisible safety net that protects every single worker, every patient, and the wider environment. It's the ultimate prerequisite that makes modern medical miracles possible. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how the complex systems around us keep us safe.